Hey everyone! Welcome to another episode of Cracking the Code to Your Challenges. My name is Diana Lizarazo, and my co-host, I'm so used to guest speaker. My co-host, Elizabeth Kelly, will be coming on, and we're here to help you guys solve the challenges that you guys come up. And I have some exciting news. We have a social networking platform. It's called REI Fam, and you're able to also share the problems, have the support system, and we have a new feature coming in soon where you'll be able to do it anonymously so that we can all mastermind and help each other out with no worries. Now, before we get started, let me just see where Elizabeth is at. I don't see her on. So let me know what you guys are up to. And I also did want to share, hold on, what time is it? Yeah, we're on the right time, okay. Making sure that I'm in the right time. But I just want to hear, what do you guys have to say? Hey, Rob. Oh, I can see Elizabeth on. Awesome. Let's get her on. And then we can get the show. There we go.
Hey Diana,
Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited for today's topic. I thought we would do what I was telling you. We'll do uh, private lending, and I wanted to just share, I guess, like different examples. You had one, and then I was going to share two different ones, just so people get ideas of, the kind of problems that can up or the outcomes of things. So did you want to share yours first, and then I'll share my two stories, and then we'll get into what we would do in those situations?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you mean the the video I did earlier this week, the reel earlier this week?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I try to normally, stay fairly mainstream. Well, I shouldn't say mainstream, but I try not to call people out because you don't always know what's going on behind closed doors or inside. But I've had a number of people this week who have forwarded me an email from somebody who is actively looking for money, offering 15 to 18% return, totally unsecured funds. And I happen to know that there are dozens of investors who are not getting paid their monthly payments right now, who have
And you know
asked for
what
their
I find
funds back.
weird? Actually, 15 and 18% is actually really low right now in our market. I would be like, I still want it secured actually at that rate. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
like, you probably should be hitting like 20% or something if you're doing prom note. Although at the same time, like you, I don't believe in prom notes, but go on.
Yeah. So I happen to know that they're not paying their current investors. They are not paying out money that has been asked for back. They've got a significant amount of investors who are in some pretty serious financial distress, and they're continuing to send emails out like nothing's wrong, looking for other people, and it just makes me sick. And at some point, you kind of go, you can't stand by and allow this to happen anymore.
Mhm. And it's
There's
just also, sorry, finish your thought.
I was just going to say there's, legitimate investors, people who have integrity and they're struggling right now, but they have every intention of paying people back. And then there's just predators out there too. So, your job as a investor is to sort through and figure out who do you want to lend money to, who has integrity and, will do everything in their power to protect and ensure your money comes back to you versus people who really have no intention of paying you back at all, and they're just setting up like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. So that's funny. I was gonna just say that I know a lot of investors, the bigger ones that are bigger. Sometimes these also bigger hole because they just go way over their head. And I was gonna
Hmm.
say, it's like they're getting the money to pay back other people, but somewhere down the line, there's gonna be a lot of people that get screwed over because I mean we saw it also already with the Epic Alliance, they went down. It was kind of like the same scenario. But I also
Yeah.
wanted to give other two scenarios also, and seeing the light in some of the things too. So I actually love private lending because I get to also see the dynamic of the environment and the good and the bad side of things. I only do mortgages, and I feel like we'll probably be talking about that later too. But I wanted to give two scenarios. So last year, I received a lot of people that were at the beginning of the year. I noticed this. A lot of people that were either in multifamilies over leveraged or flip projects over leveraged. And they were asking for money, and they know when they're coming to me, it's only mortgages. But even in that situation, you could see how leveraged they were. And it was a situation where I didn't want to get involved because I even saw on a mortgage on a second, I even saw the problems coming that I could even maybe get not a portion of my money back. And then, for example, now this year, I find it very interesting because the kind of things that I'm seeing, which is very strange because these are non-investor ones, which is interesting that are coming to me, but it is a trend that I'm seeing is the pre-cons. Now I'm seeing a lot of pre-cons coming in where they can't close and they're asking for money because obviously the appraisal is less than what they bought it for, and they're trying to find that difference because it's either you don't pay and get sued, or you figure out the money and then you're trying to make sure you can actually make those payments and hopefully break even somewhere down the line. And another one, actually one more. Sorry, another one just came up, and I feel like we should talk about it too. Debt consolidation, which is not really, I don't think, happens so much on the investor side. I don't think, but for some reason, again, it's been coming a lot to me, and I don't like the whole debt consolidation because I've been hearing from a lot of people, a lot of lawyers, that they're seeing these debt consolidations come in, but it only gives you the opportunity for maybe 6 months to a year down the road to just lose everything because they can't afford
Yeah.
it already at the moment.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like instead of doing a debt consolidation, sell that property. And again, I think this is more for the homeowner ones. Usually investors, I feel like if they're at that point, they're way over leveraged and you are losing. But in a homeowner sense, instead of consolidating all the debt, I feel like it sucks. Sell the home because you'll probably still get out maybe 200K. That gives you like a good 4 years of rent to figure out your shit, get the job, and start in a situation that you're much better than losing everything in a year because you can't handle those payments. So I feel like I've been seeing these kind of situations happening a lot. And I like, and the good part of, I mean, is you get to see the trends happening, which is kind of nice because I've also seen the good trends. Like I've seen some good deals coming through. Um, I just want to lay out all those different scenarios that I've been just seeing a lot of lately.
Yeah. I think, taking all the different scenarios that you're looking at, what it comes down to that I'm seeing is that people are unwilling to sell, or they're afraid to sell, or they think that the market's going to recover, which is basically reducing the future of your portfolio to gambling on appreciation again. And the trend over time is, yes, we're going to go up, especially when you're investing, in duplexes and burrs and those kinds of things. But sometimes you have to give your head a shake and you have to look at the writing on the wall and say, I can't borrow my way out of this. I need to downsize. I need to let go. You pick you pick a couple of properties that have significant equity in them and you sell them. And even if you sell them for less than you were hoping to get, if you look at the private money, and there's a lot of people right now who are stuck in private money, either because the lending rules have changed and the qualifying's changed, or because it's like CMHC. You bought a multi-unit building, you bought it with private money so you could close quick a year or two ago. You figured you'd be able to refinance, but now CMHC, they moved the cheese, they changed the rules, and you can't get a loan. You have to go to a different lender, and then you can look at and apply for CMHC a year or two in the future. So when you have all these kind of variables, when you map stuff out years in advance, nobody has a crystal ball. And you have to be willing to look at reality, as hard as it is. You have to be willing to look at the reality of your situation. And you can't dig yourself out of debt with more debt. And you
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't, in all honesty, you shouldn't be funding renovations and major renovation projects with cash flow either.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of sort of fundamentals, basic fundamentals here that, as real estate investors, most of us are not experienced entrepreneurs. Most of us are not people who have been to business school and we know how to run a business. You're just trying to do the best that you can to get by. And I get that. But there is a time where you make that hard call to liquidate one or more properties and use that money that you make to keep yourself afloat for the long run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And actually yeah, it's really important. And we spoke about this last time actually, so I'm going to just reiterate again. Having criteria really helps you to decide when to sell something, when to keep it. Your criteria really helps you decide what to do, especially in those tough times, right? Because and actually, I would say, a little bit surprised because I always had this belief, I would say, that if you're in the business world, people are a little bit more business oriented and they'll make decisions in that sense. But I do feel like I'm seeing people like that. They're in a bad situation, and instead of doing something that will make more business sense to do, like let's say selling the house, they're actually not doing it and kind of getting stuck, losing more and more money, kind of waiting to the end, like what you see with homeowners and foreclosures, where it's like they're closing their eyes and kind of like not seeing the reality of things, and just kind of digging the hole deeper and then making the situation worse,
Yeah,
instead of just being like, we're hitting my criteria. Criteria says I need to sell, so I'm going to sell. Or for
yeah.
example, with a flip, where you were saying like that, like when I was seeing these flips, if you're getting a deal that's coming in the middle or end of a project, and they're asking for more funding, there's something wrong there. They haven't done their numbers properly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that you should really be scrutinizing, I feel like. Because that's what I was seeing like that last year. I was seeing it was people telling me in the middle of their projects or getting close to the projects waiting for the spring, and I was like, what happens if you don't sell out your numbers in the spring?
Mm-hmm.
What happens with my money? And so for me it's like those kind of things are very like warning bells come off. You're in the middle of a project, you didn't estimate it correctly, you didn't give those buffers, or things went sideways, but I don't need to be a part of that things going sideways,
Yeah. Yeah, it
And it's
doesn't need
kind
to
of
be
like
my
one of
money
those
that,
like,
that goes.
pardon?
It doesn't need to be my money that goes sideways with you, right?
Exactly. And I feel like people really start thinking about more in the sense of salvaging a project, I would say in a way that isn't salvaging things at all. It's like just digging the hole deeper and making the situation worse, because for example like last year, like spring market is actually not looking good for a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you don't have that room that you needed, like if you could go down far enough, because things had finally started going down then. And it was just kind of like borrowing, yeah, like you said, borrowing money is not the solution. And it's going to be like what, gives you another 3 to 6 months to just go bankrupt, or to just be losing a lot more money and pissing a lot more people off. Like it's just kind of like, why not kind of sell, or where you're at, like be able to sell or do something where it's like maybe you're losing maybe this much money and not like this much money. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And the numbers should really be dictating what you do. So if you look at something and you say, okay, I would have to sell it at a discount right now in order for it to move. But then you factor in, okay, if I held it for another 6 months, I'm losing money every month. I've got these interest payments. I've got this, and this. If you're going to come out at the same number anyways, then sell it now and
Yes. Or in
get,
a worse situation, right? If anything, I feel
yeah,
like the waiting is actually a lot bigger losses than,
yes.
I mean, yeah, and where we're at, I feel like there are much worse losses, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are in a situation, I have a number of clients right now who did prom notes before we started working together, and they're not getting paid right now. There's a couple of pretty big mortgage brokers who, put deals together and their clients aren't getting paid. There's people who did them, one-on-one and they're not getting paid. So I'm actually in the process of putting together a webinar because I want people to really understand what their options are, and this is a very tricky balancing act because if you are not getting paid right now, you have to understand that there are things you can do that will help and there are things that you can do that will hurt. So sometimes we have to be sure that by aggressively going after our money, we don't actually upset the entire apple cart and drive the investor underwater. So
Mm-hmm.
communication is the key in terms of what needs to happen right now. You need to have open lines of communication with your borrowers, with your lenders. If you are in that situation, you need to be talking about what's going on. Where is their money? You need to be brainstorming solutions together. Can we flip you from a prom note into a secured mortgage somewhere? Can we do up a new document? Can we reduce the interest payments? You might not be making 15, but we can pay you 7, or we can do a balloon payment, or can we bring you in as an equity partner on this deal so that you have more security? This is the time to be compassionate but fair and to have those tough, honest conversations and understand that depending on the situation, going right to legal could actually jeopardize your ability to collect your money. It could drive an investor under. So, I mean, maybe there's an opportunity where you come in and they're overwhelmed with projects and you have project management experience. And you can say, listen, I'm going to come on board as the as the project manager, and I'm going to get this project over the finish line. And then we're going to, I'm going to take a 25% cut, and that's how I'm going to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't assume that running right to lawyers and going that way is going to fix everything. It's definitely warranted in some situations, but you need to be open and honest, and you need to look at all the different options out there and try and work it out, because honestly, there's a ton of people in that situation right now, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. And I could and I just feel like the communication, people like to run away a lot from the communication, but it's just like you never know where that communication could lead you to is another thing.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I was actually lending money to someone, it was last year, and they were having problems with their contractors. And I have lots of experience with that because my husband is a contractor and I helped him build the business, so I know renovations quite well, and I know like the stereotypical things that happen and things like that. And he told me, but actually I had to pull it out of him, to be honest. He didn't really tell me more. I was just like, what's going on? I know something's going on. Things are going on. I'm like, what's happening? He goes and tells me, and I help him to navigate it through, because in that situation, I was on a first mortgage. I was super safe. So it wasn't even my worry that I'm losing my money because I was in a very good position. But it was also in the sense of like, I still want you to win. Like, I don't want you to be like a
Yeah.
year down the road paying me more than, or like an extra year, let's say, going down the road because you're having these contractors have issues. Um, and you, if anything, are losing a lot more money. Me probing him to be like, something's going on. I know what's going on. Um, and telling me what issues he was having. I was able to help him, guide him to just push the contractors more forward and help him understand the issues with like what I was seeing. And because I was like, I think you hired part-time contractors and you need full-time. That was like one of the issues. I'm like, you need to talk to them, get them to come every day. You need to figure out what it is and decide what you're going to do. And with me helping along, he was able to actually get his project done. He profited quite well from it. From the end of it, and it was like a 6 month delay on the project. But I think it would have been a lot worse if he didn't tell me. And I think like that, people get very scared to tell their money people things are going wrong and that things are happening. But obviously, you tell certain people things, right? Because some people have like no idea of real estate. In my case, I did. So I was kind of like, I know something's going on. Tell me. If your money people are real estate investors, they can help solve your problems, or at least you keep them in the loop what's going on, and it kind of calms them down, or you give solutions. You always come in with a solution. I say, like, come in with the problem, yes, but come into with it with a solution that this is how we're going to take care of it, because it helps relax the people. Knowing that, okay, there's a strategy, like there's this problem here, but there's also a strategy that we're going to do to see, and hopefully things go well, you know?
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's important to be solution oriented, to communicate proactively. You know, a lot of times in our heads, we create a scenario, we create something like the investor that I was messaging with this morning. He's like, I'm taking it personally that I'm not getting paid. I'm like, this is not personal. This is someone who is literally struggling and, you know, didn't have the systems and processes in place in order to be able to deal with this particular situation. And this is another reason why I'm such a big advocate. When we lend money out, I have my own agreement. And I know that lots of people, oh, the borrower just provides the agreement and I sign that. Or, we just use this template over here. I'm like, no, I want everything clear. Like Barb, who joins us every Friday, we're lucky enough to be in her schedule for 1 o'clock on Fridays when we're here. And she messaged and she said, if a payment is missed, who's responsible? Like if you find a deal through a mortgage broker and the mortgage broker matches you up and a payment gets missed, then who's responsible for chasing down that payment? And the reality is it's whatever the contract says. So if you haven't put in place a provision, like I'm a very big advocate for having mortgage administrators, where you have a company that's hired and they do all the communication, they track everything, they pull the payments, they make sure you get paid, and then they have a process in place for if you don't get paid. So it might cost like 0.5% in order to have the mortgage administrator, but there's so many less headaches because that process is in place, that system is in place, and it's not you sitting there at night wondering what's going to happen next and what you should do, because they literally know exactly what to do. They deal with it all the time.
100%. And another thing that I wanted to add is that it's always your money, and you always have to have a good understanding of the project, because I feel like even with mortgage brokers, like, yes, they'll give you deals, but to be honest, I've seen some deals that, let's say, I wouldn't take,
Mm,
that are coming from mortgage brokers. And I'm not saying that it's their fault or anything, but it's like you really have to have understanding of what your criteria is, what you're willing to do for the deals. Because like that, like just because a mortgage broker is giving you a deal doesn't mean that deal really makes sense for you. Because there's lots of different people with very vast different risk tolerances. And sometimes you're kind of like, and when things are going good, you're just like, I want to do seconds. I'll do to 100, make tons of money.
yeah,
And then now things have changed and you're like, no, 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 80% max loan to value. I'll do a second, but no more to that or whatever. Or I'm only doing first or whatever. And that, I think that it's important because you never know. Because he's like, oh, you do 100%. So he's like selling you out all over the place, thinking that you're still all over there doing your 100% LTVs when
yeah.
it's like, no, the economy has changed and this is not a good idea at all.
Absolutely. And I think, this is one of the things I always talk about with my coaching clients is you have to know how to do everything yourself, because you don't know 100% who you can trust. And you might have had someone that you've been friends with for years, or you've been business colleagues with for years, and you would trust them with your life, but something happens in their personal life and it changes how they do things moving forward. You have to know how to underwrite deals. A mortgage broker, typically once the deal is done and they get paid, they're usually going to disappear.
Yeah,
They're usually
100%.
not involved with it. Now, they might decide that they want to keep you on as a private lender, so they're going to stay involved as a courtesy. But quite frankly, they make their money when the deal
Yeah.
closes. So the likelihood that and they're certainly not going to put their money out. They're not going to go, oh, sorry, you lent money to this person. Here, let me reach into my pocket and give you your payment this month. It's not going to happen like that. So at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, and you better know what you're doing. And it's the same thing, I talk to my clients about analyzing markets, and they're like, well, where are you investing, or what markets do you recommend right now? Neither one of those things matter at all. You need to know how to analyze the market. You need to know what criteria to look for, what questions to ask, who to connect with. I'm not going to give you fish. I'm going to teach you how to fish
100%.
as a coach anyways.
Completely agree. Yeah, I feel like even like that, especially as money partners, um, for some reason they think they can just like pass off the baton to the active investors. But the one good thing, actually, what you were basically saying, like, which what I really like too, is that if you know what's going on, you understand how to analyze deals, you can easily find out who their experienced investors are, who their unexperienced investors are, who are the people who are scammers, who are not scammers. Like you can start reading those things because you understand the market, you know how to analyze a deal and make sure that they're meeting your criteria. Or yeah, it's just you can read once you know numbers or you know the market, you really start learning people. Like one of the things that I love is, I can tell people's personalities actually. Like I can tell like a bold investor from a conservative one, from like, it's just like all these, you start like seeing all their characteristics come out, like who's super organized, who's not organized,
Hmm.
you start seeing all these like their behaviors coming out in their Excel sheets or how they run their numbers, or it's just very interesting. So you, it's like all these things are good for you to know and understand.
Yeah. And quite honestly, most people who have borrowed money, they have every intention of returning it. They
Mhm.
really want to be successful. They want to do their best. So it's not a matter of someone with poor integrity. It's for the most part not a matter of someone with poor integrity. But where we struggle is, do we know how to run do you know how to run a business? Do you know how to manage your finances? And I think that piece is really key because unfortunately there's a lot of real estate investors right now who know that they're upside down, but they don't know what to do. And the first step that you should be doing, the first thing you should do is you should be reaching out and asking for help. You should be asking for another set of eyes on your portfolio. You should be asking for someone who knows how to run numbers, someone who understands the finances, to be able to look at your portfolio and see where can you optimize things, where can you increase your income, and where can you reduce expenses. And sometimes the conversations I have with my clients are literally like, hey, listen, you're negative cash flowing in your portfolio. If you're not willing to let anything go, then you better look on the personal side. You better give up your cable TV. You better give up your 90 movie subscriptions that you're only watching one movie a month on each one. Like, you need to downsize your lifestyle to get through this tough time. And I say that as someone who did exactly those things. When we had someone who stole from us in 2014, I didn't get a new car. In fact, we went down to one car. We canceled our cable. We canceled, a whole bunch of things. We weren't traveling. We weren't doing a ton of things because we had a decision to make about who we were as people. And we weren't willing to go to our owners and say, sorry, someone stole from us, so you're out money. No, we sold our house. We made good on the money for everybody else, and we downsized our lifestyle. And quite frankly, that's what I look for when I look at people at who I'm lending to. Sorry, the dog is woofing in his sleep here. Um,
But
um,
completely agree with you. And I just wanted to give Barb another shout out. She's so funny. She's like, you should be a PI too, Dan. I am a very analytical person in so many different ways. But I also did want to say, oh, I got like everything going on right now. Um, but I did want to say that, or actually, yeah, because we're already at the 1:30. But I think that was good. Any final comments that you'd like to, just a sum up that you'd like to give?
no, well, just reach out. If you are struggling, if you are owed money, or if you owe people money and you are struggling, reach out. Diana, I know you would bend over backwards to help people. I definitely will do everything in my power to help people. But the goal is for everybody to kind of come through this really tough period intact. And in 2008, like, this same thing was going on. And at the end of the day, I know it's hard, but keep it in perspective, because as much as we'd all like to have a big pile of money, quite honestly, I'd rather have my health. And the stress that comes with worrying about money is so detrimental to your health. So protect your health first and then look out for your money.
Love it. Yeah, and I just want to end it off with kind of what you were also saying beforehand was that I also feel, which is what you're saying, that generally a lot of these problems that are coming is either through inexperience or huge growth and they didn't know how to run their business and it wasn't that they were
Hmm.
trying to scam you. So I feel like yes, problems are happening, but it's like we all have to just be in a solution phase, even if you're the one losing the money, like going forward. Maybe like I was saying that I saw things happening in one of these projects. Again, I knew it wasn't affecting me. That specific one wouldn't affect me in any way because I was just it was in a really safe position. But I knew something was going on, and I went and I spoke and be like, "Hey, how can I help? I know something's going on. Maybe it's worth it to do that too. Don't go into this accusation and pissed off and just like
Hmm.
roaring at them because all that's going to do is, if anything, create even bigger distances and even less solutions come out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas like that, I feel like both of us are great advocates, mastermind. Lots of people have so many different points of view where we can help all of each other just solve the problems and figure out something that maybe instead of a huge loss, it's a little loss or a no loss, and we get it solved.
Yeah.
Thank you so
That
much,
that would be ideal.
Elizabeth. Yeah.
You're welcome. It's
Thank
great to
you.
see you again.
Yeah, it was so good to see you too. Thank you, everyone. Hope you guys enjoy. If you guys love what you hear from Elizabeth, she's going to be tagged on here, so you'll be able to follow her, see what she's up to these days. And if you love my shows, then you can definitely tag me, follow me, so that you can also see what I'm up to these days and get on to Refem.
That's awesome. Thanks, Diana. And there's some good chats going on in Refam right now, which I'm very happy to be part of. I'm so glad you did this for the community.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see everyone in the next episode. Bye,
Have
everyone.
a great weekend.